What's up, St. Philip family? Our Lord was a disruptor. He came in, the ruling classes, the priests, the Pharisees, the scribes, the Sadducees, all the religious hierarchy of Israel was living in a certain way, and it kind of structured society. And Jesus, he came in and he disrupted that structure in a major way. And one of the biggest things he was doing, as we heard in the gospel, is that he was welcoming sinners and he was eating with tax collectors, eating with the sinners and eating with the tax. He was not only just like greeting them, but he was welcoming them, eating with them, spending time with them. And the Pharisees and the scribes are like, what is he doing? They're complaining about it and they're scandalized by it. But check this out. Did you know that there is no law in the Torah that says we cannot welcome sinners or eat with them or eat with tax collectors? So Jesus was not breaking a single law. But these Pharisees and these scribes were so puritanical and had created these fake laws that they would segregate themselves from public sinners. They wouldn't talk to them. They'd ostracize them. They'd push them off in the name of being unclean or, just being known for sin. They would judge them, push them away. And that's so not the way. Even when you look at the Old Testament, think about the readings that we've heard over the past few weeks. Come back to me with all your heart. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. If you come back to me, I will renew you. I will strengthen you. Even though you are wounded, I will bind your wounds. I will heal you. This over and over again through the prophets, and just through all of Israel, all of the Old Testament, God talks about his mercy and coming back to him. And we even have the prophet Jonah who preaches to Nineveh, and God says he's going to destroy the city, and they fast and they put on sackcloth and ashes, and even the king himself, and he spares the city. God is a merciful God, and he desires us for himself. And so they were not being faithful to the covenant, to who God was calling them to be, that God was desiring mercy, not sacrifice. And so Jesus was disrupting not the law, but this social structure, this construct, this societal norm that had been created by the hierarchy of the Jewish priests. And he's like, this is not the way we're supposed to be. And so he addresses the parable of the prodigal son to them. Isn't that interesting? We know the prodigal son. We know the story. We probably all could tell it. But that whole story is actually being directed to the Pharisees and the scribes, because they didn't understand the mission. And that's what's beautiful about the disruption of Jesus, is that Jesus, he shakes things up and he gets us to focus again on the heart of mercy, the heart of the Father, the heart of the merciful Father. And so he tells this parable of the merciful Father and the two lost sons. Now, in the very beginning of this gospel passage, we hear that sinners and tax collectors were drawing near to Jesus to listen to him. Drawing near to Jesus to listen to him. So what that tells us is that Jesus was doing what Pope Francis calls accompaniment. That in welcoming them and in eating with them and in showing them that they have dignity and in respecting them and connecting with them, he actually got them to desire to listen to him, because he first greeted them and met them at their human level. He first treated them with respect and dignity and showed them with his presence and sharing this meal that they matter, that he cared about them. And in doing that, he opened their hearts and their ears, and they were drawing near and they wanted to listen to him. That's effective accompaniment. And just a little note on that. Sometimes accompaniment is abused in a way. It's misunderstood. That accompaniment sometimes is like, oh, we have to accompany people, so we let them sit in their sin, or we condone their behavior, or we accept them, for their sinful lifestyle. No. Accompaniment is greeting this person and connecting with them as a human being, as a fellow brother or sister, caring about them, listening to them, hearing their story, taking the time to get to know them. But it's also about inviting them to go further, accompanying them along the way. So we never stay in that space. We always invite them to more. So just a distinction that's important. So Jesus is telling this parable, and we have the tax collectors and sinners who are listening, and we have the Pharisees and the scribes who are listening, and they're all together, and he tells this parable. And so first he talks about the prodigal son. And I want just to imagine like what the sinners were thinking at the time they heard about the prodigal son. So he says, there's his son. He takes he says, give me my inheritance. And he goes and he leaves home. He squanders it on a life of dissipation, and he becomes broke, and there's a famine, and he's starving, and he's in the pig pen. He's in the mud, and he's at rock bottom. And I bet these sinners are listening, and they're like, yeah, that's me. That's me. I know what that's like to feel empty. I know what that's like to feel completely broken. I know that's what it's like to feel like I'm in the pig pen and starving. That's what I've done. And so they're connecting with that, I'm sure. And then he says, then the son came to his senses. And he says, okay, well, I know I could never be his son. I no longer deserve to be called his son. I have given it away. I have squandered the inheritance. I have messed up big time. I have messed up in a way that is unforgivable, but I'm starving. So maybe, just maybe, he'll take me as a servant, as a slave. I can't be a son, but maybe a slave. So these sinners and tax collectors who are listening, I think they're thinking, okay, like, all right, maybe Jesus is saying that we have like an opportunity to have like, maybe not the full life, but like at least a half life, that we could be a servant, that we have something. So they're listening. And then we hear as the son is about to he's making his return. And when he's still a long way off, the father runs to him, filled with compassion, embraces him, kisses him, puts a robe on his hand, on him, puts a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. And he says, my son who is dead is now alive. He's lost and is found. And he completely takes him back. Showing his son that no one could ever remove his dignity. No one could ever remove the fact that he is his son and that he's welcome back, and they celebrate. They celebrate because the merciful Father just wants his son to be alive and to be safe. He does not care about the life of dissipation because the son came back and he's able to receive the Father's mercy again. And so these sinners and tax collectors, what must have happened in their hearts and their minds to see the Father run to them, to see that they were not only could they, have some form of life back, but they could have the fullness of their life back, that by the mercy of God, they could be fully forgiven and redeemed and receive their dignity again, the dignity that they've never lost. Beautiful. But then we get to the older son. So at this point, the Pharisees and the scribes are probably steaming. They know exactly what he's saying, and they feel called out. And then he says the older son, the older brother, is really upset. He is like, when he finds out what's happening, and he refuses to go inside. So remember, Jesus, he's going to the sinners and tax collectors. He's eating with them. He's welcoming them. And this older son refuses to even go in the house. He's so angry. And what does the father do? This is really important. So the father, after the servant tries to get the son to come inside, and he won't. They go inside, they probably tell the father, and the father himself comes out. So the father goes to his other son too. And it says that he pleads with him. He pleads with him. He says, you are my son. Everything I have is yours. Everything I have is yours. But this brother of yours, he was dead, and now he's alive. He's lost and is found. And this father is pleading with him, begging him to understand the heart of the mission, the whole purpose of this life, to be safe at home. And it's so important to see that, because he doesn't get angry with the son. He doesn't chastise him. He doesn't yell at him. He doesn't shake him around. He pleads with him. So the merciful Father has another lost son. There's the one son who was lost to his sin, but then there's this other son who's lost to his pride and also his lack of understanding. Everything I have is yours. You're good. You're doing really well. You're doing a great job. But can we see the big deal here? That your brother was dead. He's alive again. It's not about this. It's not a zero-sum game. This is in every soul game. And he came back, and that's why we're celebrating. And so that's the mystery there that Jesus was trying to tell the Pharisees and the scribes. He wasn't in that moment, he wasn't angry with them or yelling at them or chastising them. He was showing the compassion of the Father towards them, hoping that they would be moved to deeper understanding and deeper compassion. And so, brothers and sisters, we look at ourselves and we ask, who do I identify with? If I feel like I'm the prodigal and I'm hit wrong bottom, and I know I made bad decisions, I know that my sin has led me to emptiness and brokenness. I'm starving and I'm in the pig pen and I'm feeling awful and disqualified. I need to pray for hope. Hope that the Father's mercy is real and it's for me. The hope, never lose hope, that no matter what I've ever done, no matter what sin it is, no matter how bad, nothing is beyond the mercy of God. And so if I'm the prodigal, come back home, return to the Father, and realize that as soon as you make that turn, boom, he's already running to you to give you a big hug and a big fat kiss, ready to receive you again. So pray for hope and run to the Father. If we identify with the older brother, with the other son, the son who feels like they've been doing everything right, they've been staying the straight and narrow, and they've been struggling with judgment and pushing people away and unforgiveness. Maybe there's someone in my family, someone in a friend or a coworker, or someone I know in the neighborhood who I've just pushed away and I've said, they just don't get it. They're not enough. They made terrible decisions, and I get angry with them. I judge them. I don't want them, and I say they can't come in. They should be dead to us. Sometimes we think that, right? So if I'm struggling with that, I need to pray for understanding and compassion, to understand not just my life and my hurt and these little unimportant things about my selfishness. Like, ask for the understanding to see the bigger picture, to see that the Father loves all his children and wants them all to be safe forever. Don't you want your kids to be safe? Don't you care about them and want them to come home even when they've been wayward? Don't you love them regardless, unconditionally, even if they make mistakes? So how much infinitely more does the Father love us? Infinite mercy. And he wants us all to be better, to be safe, to be home, to be in heaven for eternity. So one soul is worth a huge celebration. And so we need to pray for that understanding and that compassion, to see the context and throw away the judgments. And finally, this, brothers and sisters, we are always called by Jesus to go deeper. And so the prodigal son, he's restored to the Father, and the hope and the prayer is that he doesn't just become stagnant and leave again, but that he lives in the Father's house, he remains in the Father's house, and he continues to grow in love and devotion and respect to become more and more the man he's called to be. And so with the older brother, to find understanding and compassion, but also to continue going. And so, brothers and sisters, that's for us. Jesus, he meets us where we are. He does. He accompanies us, but he calls us on to greatness. He calls us further along, and that's what we need to do. So we need to pray for hope, the hope of the prodigal son. We need to pray for understanding and compassion. We need to pray for the zeal to be an ambassador for Christ, to be an ambassador, to tell the world this good news, to go out and welcome sinners, to go out and eat with them, dine with them, and call them to the Lord. And also to make sure that we are going to the Lord ourselves to receive his mercy constantly, his mercy in his life, so that we can not be dead or lost, but we can be alive, fully alive, and found not just today, but for all eternity in the kingdom of heaven.